Howdy, folks. Me again. I'd like to discuss a very important issue, I think, that plays a role right now in our society and also in churches. And I think that it's important enough to pay some attention to it. And that is the issue of relationship, man-woman relationship, but then in the wrong way. Too many marriages, I think, are being broken because in but also outside of the church, wrong relations are being built. And I think I should mention this subject because I think it's a very big issue with big consequences and big impact on both a church but also society, our society. If I see that the statistics that 30 to 40% of the marriages are being broken because of both men and women cannot stay off another person of the opposite sex, then I think this is a real serious issue in society and within churches, but also outside of churches. This happens, unfortunately, and I think I should mention it. The cause of this is that what was it? Last week, I was in a church, for crying out loud, in a church, and there was a lady who was looking for some contact in visual contact with me. And because apparently she liked me, and okay, some of you can imagine that, some of you cannot. I don't care what you think about it, but she obviously wanted to make contact with me for that reason. I was with some family, and later on, actually today, those people who I was with confirmed it that this lady had some interest in me, and luckily they told her, listen, he is married, so you cannot have a chance. But it made me think about that I should talk about this subject because it's a heavy subject, and I think it has a lot of consequences in and outside of the church. I think that there are many people doing wrong in adultery within the church, but also outside of the church. And the thing is, how does it start? And I think that there is a little knowledge about this subject, especially, well, there is a guy here in Holland, Wilkin van der Kamp. He's a preacher in the north of Holland, as far as I know. I don't know exactly where he lives, but he wrote some issues about this, a book about this, amongst other subjects about this. And he tells us, and I think that is wise. I think it's really true what he says about it. I did not read that book or the part of the book which deals about this subject myself, but my wife did. And it is about how adultery is coming to be. And adultery is if two persons like each other, or they seem to like each other, and it can start off as a friendship. It can start off in the shop where you're talking to the cashier or the salesperson, and you have a nice so-called friendly contact. Well, that so-called friendly contact can be seemingly innocent, but if time develops, this friendly kind of contact can be deepened out to higher levels. Well, if you're single, no problem. Feel free to do so. That's not the issue. I'm talking here about a married man or a married woman contacting the opposite sex, who is also married or single. That could, it doesn't matter. At least one of them is married or has a very strong relationship, preferably married, and that the other party is married or not. In this case, in this situation, pictured situation, does not matter too much. But suppose that he or she is also married, so you have two marriages. But there is a friendly contact between a man and a woman who are not married, but meet each other in the supermarket, in a church, wherever, or in politics, or in whatever kind of society, can be a club, or football, sports activity, sports club, or some other game club, or whatever. But if you have two couples, couple one and couple B, and the both opposite sexes have contact with another person in what kind of situation ever, and be very careful in those situations, because yes, it can start with a friendly word, it can start with a friendship, it can start with talking and having a nice time in just superficial. That's how it starts. But what you're actually doing, and that's what I found out also in my own life, is that you are making a soul connection to that person. What you are building up is a connection from soul to soul. And sometimes these conversations can have a deeper subjects than you discuss with your own wife or your own husband. And that's where the danger starts to come, because due to this so-called friendly conversations where you share your heart with the other person of the opposite sex, a deeper relation is starting to develop. And this is where the danger comes from, because if you have the feeling that you can speak your heart out with the other person who is not your wife or your husband more than with your own partner, then there is a danger, a serious danger of adultery. So one of the biggest issues in adultery is that try to avoid. A colleague of mine, a used to be colleague of mine, told me and there was also a situation about a lady, and he said, well, you better avoid her, because you can be better 10 steps ahead of the troubles than one step into the trouble. And I thought that was a very wise recommendation. So you see also the Bible. One moment, I'll pick the Bible with me so I can read it to you. There is a very famous story in the Bible, in the Old Testament, in Genesis actually. I have to find out where in Genesis it is. And that is about Joseph. Joseph, the son of Jacob, who also is called Israel. Yeah, Joseph in Potiphar's house. And Joseph was sold by his brothers to the Egyptians, and he ends up in the house of Potiphar. Now, Joseph was a beautiful guy. He was apparently a very attractive man. But the wife of his boss laid eyes upon him in a lustful way. And then Joseph, when the confrontation comes, when the wife of Potiphar approaches Joseph to desire more than she should, then Joseph runs away, leaving behind his rope. He apparently had some kind of rope, and apparently she grabbed that rope, and Joseph ran away. And that is what we should do. That is what we should do. If we are confronted with a person of the opposite sex that wants some contact with you, or you get the feeling that you want contact with that person, the best thing what you can do, especially if you're married, if you're free, then okay, and the other person is free, then okay, then it's no problem. But if the other person is married as well and you're single, don't touch that person. Don't stay away from it. I mean, you endanger his or her marriage. Stay off of that. You should not mingle yourself in their marriage. That's sacred. Marriage is sacred. It's a covenant, a life-lasting covenant. So you better be 10 steps ahead of the trouble than one step into the trouble. And but what is 10 steps ahead? Well, the best thing to do is avoid any friendly contacts, which can deepen a relationship. A relationship is based on the word says it all, to relate and to tell your heart. There is to relate, to speak your heart to that person, and that's where the danger is coming. That this deepening your relationship by talking and talking and talking in conversation, and it can all be friendly. I agree that that can also be friendly, but the thing is, the more you talk with each other, the more and deepener your relationship will be, and then the chance is becoming bigger that it will end in an adulterous affair. And you don't want that for your marriage, and you don't want that for the other person's marriage. It brings only division, it brings only pain and stuff like that. So you should not do it. If you have a contact with a person of the opposite sex, and which you, yeah, sometimes you feel, well, hey, there's some kind of connection, run away from it. That's the best thing you can do. Run away from it. Don't contact that person. And if you cannot avoid contact, then make it very, very, very clear. So, hey, listen, this is not going to work. I'm a married man or I'm a married woman, and I don't want this. Yes, you may be a very friendly and a very attractive woman or man. That may be true, but I don't want to endanger my marriage, my relation with my partner. And so better make it clear to avoid any form of deepening the relationship. Because if you are deepening the relationship by so-called friendly talks and so-called friendly social talks, you are deepening that relationship, and you are making a soul soul contact, a soul-to-soul contact, and zielsverbinding. It's a soul connection. You are making a connection with your soul and this person's soul to connect deeper and deeper. Actually, that is a spiritual form of adultery. So, because you should have that soul connection with your own partner and not with another person. You should be able to communicate. I don't say it's always easy, because your own partner may not be willing to communicate so openly. That could be true. But then speak about it. Listen, this is the case. People should know this. You should know this, especially if you're a Christian, that you are not required to make a soul connection to the other opposite sex person who is not your partner. And in that way you prevent for breaking your marriage, because the devil loves it. He really loves it to break your marriage apart, and especially if there are children, then whole your family will explode, and it causes only trouble, etc., etc., etc. So I really want to put this message across, that and it has happened, folks. I mean, also in church there are recent stories of some church leaders who even wrote books about it. There's one example I can think of. I don't want to mention his name to hurt his reputation, because he already did it himself. But he had an adulterous affair with the secretary of the church, which also happened to be the wife of his best friend. And some people may already know who that is, but he was apparently, I don't know what happened, and I'm not going to judge him. I hope that I pray for the best in that situation for all the people who are involved in it. But we should take these happenings as lessons in how not to do it. So I feel sorry for that whole situation in their case, but I'm thankful that it happened nonetheless, maybe, because we can learn from that. I mean, there you see the whole thing in reality. And apparently there was some soul connection which was deepened and by friendly talks, and you should avoid that. If you want to have deep, hard conversations, do it and start it, and have it only with your own partner, with you whom you are married, preferably married. So avoid friendly talks with other people from the opposite sex, because that will endanger your own relationship with your partner, whether it's a man or a wife you have a partnership with. It will avoid it, because if you are deepening that relationship with the other person who's not your partner, then you are actually also being adulterous in that conversation, because you convey that you like the other person, and the person conveys to you that he or she likes you. So basically, you are committing adultery already, and that can only end in divorce in the end with your own partner. Next to the whole thing is I think that's what I want to make a strong case for, is that that divorces should be banned from the in this case Dutch law and the European laws. That divorces should be only exercised in the most extreme situations where there indeed is a statement or a situation of adultery or extreme abuse or stuff like that. Maybe that kind of very extreme kind of things. But I think, and I want to make a case out of it, that divorces in the Western world should be vanished. They should be illegal. A divorce should be illegal by law. I'm a very strong opponent for that. And I don't care what you think about it. I really don't care. But right now, the marriage is treated as a consumer product, and it's not. From God's perspective, it is an everlasting, lifelong covenant between partner A and partner B, preferably man and woman. Yeah. So, and divorce should be avoided at all costs, if possible. And if divorce is coming to a parent, then it should be tried to avoid by all parties around it and by the persons themselves. From my point of view, divorce should be banned by law, and it should be forbidden by law. Are Christians allowed to remarriage? Basically, what the Bible says is no, they should not. But those rules were set up in a time that indeed a marriage was forbidden by law, except in very extreme situations. I agree that remarriage by Christians should be forbidden as well, if the country in which this is exercised has also a law against divorce. In that case, I say yes, remarriage is forbidden, because everything should be done to keep the marriage together as good as you can, preferably enforced by law. And if not so, yeah, then try it in another way. But it should be divorce should not be the first thing to think of. Don't treat your marriage as a consumer product. It's not. Especially from God's perspective, a marriage is sacred. It's a very sacred kind of thing. And so yes, remarrying amongst Christians is prohibited if there is a law in your own country that also is unlawful to divorce. But now in Holland, for example, if you want to divorce, well, who cares? You can divorce. Well, you want to do it tomorrow? Well, you can do that. The marriage today is a consumer product, and I don't agree with that as well. I don't agree with divorce. I don't agree with remarriage. But now in our days, marriage and divorce is like a consumer product. Oh, you want this? Well, and you go ahead. And in that case, I say, yeah, remarriage is allowed in those situations, because if you are the party, the partner that is being divorced, so hey, I don't want you again in my marriage, then you are suffering from the other person's wits and wimps and stuff like that. So I think that's very unfair. So remarriage is only allowed in those kind of situations that I think that marriage is treated as a consumer product. In that case, I say from yeah, why not remarriage? Because the law should forbid divorce, and if this is not the case, then why should a Christian not remarry? But biblically spoken, remarrying is not biblical. In the days that it was written in the Bible, divorce was forbidden, and in that case, remarrying is also forbidden. If it's not, if divorce is not forbidden and it's equal, even a consumer, the marriage is a consumer product, then yeah, remarriage, from my point of view, is allowed. This is what I want to share. Be very careful with what you do and who you contact with. Don't contact persons of the opposite sex that easily, because there's always a danger of adultery, especially if there is a clique. And yes, there may be a clique, but run away from it, because it endangers your own marriage and your own relationship with your own partner and your children and so on. It ruins a lot of people's lives. So don't do it. That's my advice. Of course, you have to do whatever you think you have to do, but this is my advice. And don't put your marriage on the line. It's not worth it, folks. The grass is never greener on the other side of the hill. That's ridiculous. I mean, a person can. Every person has some flaws, has some faults, has some minor issues. We all do, including me, including my wife, everybody. So if you have the idea that the other person that you have met is a better person than your own partner, I'm sorry, that's a lie. That's a big no lie. So don't think that the grass is greener on the other side of the relation hill, so to say. That's a lie. It's not true. Because everybody has some faults and errors and so on. If it's not this error with your present day partner, then it will be that kind of error and that kind of faults with the other person. It doesn't work. And also, if you think that you can start a new relationship with the other person, sorry, it's not going to work. It will always worsen compared to the relationship that you had. This is what I want to share. Thanks for watching. This is a very important message, I think. So that's why I'm stressing this, and that's why I'm taking a little bit more time than normally. Thanks for watching. Please do something with this information, because too much marriages, including Christian marriages, unfortunately, are damaged by adultery. Stay away from other persons from the opposite sex. If there is a clique, and even if there is not a clique, stay away from the opposite sex, preferably, because it may endanger your own relationship with your own wife. And talk with your wife or your husband about the deepened issues that are in your heart. And mention this also to your partner. If the other person does not want to talk that deepen, then say, listen, honey, I love you, and I want to talk about this subject with you and not with somebody else, because otherwise our relationship may be endangered. You can explain it to your partner. If he or she is not such much of a talker, and you say, well, I cannot ventilate my heart with it, then explain why you want it. And he or she should be happy that you're willing to save your own marriage by talking to your partner, who may be not so willing to talk, but he or she needs to understand the reason why you want to talk, and why to elevate your heart and to open your heart for that person. And because it's good for your marriage, it's good for your relationship, and make it a practice, make it a regular practice to talk with your partner. And even if that partner is not so much of a talker, practice it, because it's your relationship. Your marriage is at stake, possibly at stake. There is a risk if you don't. And that's what I want to convey to people, and for their marriages, for the sake of their marriages. Okay, this is the message what I want to convey. Thanks for watching, and please take this advice for your own good and for your children's good and so on, and for your whole family. I mean, you're endangering your whole family. It's not only you and your wife, but it's also your kids, if you have any. It's also your parents, the other person's parents. There are many more people involved than only you and the other person. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.